Hello there, Eagles fans, and welcome back to our Eagles Therapy Podcast. My name is Basil.
And I'm Baz.
And we are recording Sunday night, November 26, 2023, a little bit over 2 hours after the Eagles defeated the Buffalo Bills. As you can tell, we're feeling the effects of that game. We played a hard game. We contributed heavily to that win, of course.
We always do.
Just an incredible game. We can't believe it. It's like last week with the Chiefs. We just can't believe it, Dad.
Yeah, but this one is even more unbelievable. I mean, just the way they looked in the first half, and everyone saw the game. You saw what I'm talking about. And even in the third quarter, our first drive after halftime, again, was still filled with questions and what are we doings. But, there's something about the team. They just continue to rally, and it seems like the play calling gets better as the game goes.
It's so strange.
Maybe just do a 2-minute offense every game. I don't know what to do.
We were talking about that on the car ride home. I'm like, man, maybe Brian Johnson, he just needs to pretend that we're down by 3 and we have to score a touchdown every drive because, good Lord, he's amazing when we're losing. When we're down and we have to come back. He's one of the best play callers in the league, but when we're playing in a game, it's just so bizarre. It's so confusing. I don't understand.
As that drive started in overtime, when we got the ball after they kicked the field goal, it's just, there were a few yelling, kick a field goal. And, we looked at each other and said, it's touchdown or nothing in this game.
It's touchdown.
And, as much faith as I did not have in the offense for most of that game, once we had the second or third play, I kind of went, we're going to score. I really was not worried, but when we did finally score, I still cannot believe that they did what they did today. It was just amazing.
It's funny, man. That's
every week.
That's 2 games in a row that I've shouted at the screen, just screaming my lungs out, saying, "Stop running that stupid QB draw." And 2 weeks in a row, we score a touchdown on it that puts us ahead, and one that wins the game for us.
And the wide receiver screen, if we do it again, I'm going to jump off a bridge or something.
Brutal, but we'll go ahead and jump into this. But as always, we'll give a plug to the club. We are part of the Philadelphia Eagles fan club in Colorado Springs. You can go ahead and look us up on Facebook. We meet at Frankie's at Powers and Galley here in Colorado Springs for every single Eagles game. We met a few new people today. It was awesome to see. Gave them some cards for the business or for the podcast. Hopefully they're listening, and thank you for coming, and keep on coming out.
Let me get it right here. Bob and Diane.
Okay, yep, and then we also had Sophia.
Yes.
She was here as well.
She's brand new to the city.
She just moved here about 3 weeks ago, she said. So happy that you guys are here. Before we really jump into it, we got to give a mega shout out to our guy, Mike Roman, who we missed on the last podcast. Yes. I don't know how we did because we had his name written.
He's a commenter, so we're happy to.
He comments on every episode, one of our biggest fans, one of our biggest supporters. Really appreciate him watching all the time, commenting. He's great at the games too. He's always barking every time we have a big play. He's always he also comes into my work all the time, so I've seen him outside of the bar too. So really great guy. Thank you so much for all your support. But now we'll go ahead and jump into it. Eagles defeated the Buffalo Bills 37-34 in overtime. Second overtime game of the season, I believe. Yep, second. Dad, exhilarating, amazing, incredible, unbelievable.
It was more unbelievable than anything. And to me, you're just going, there's no way. And especially when they drove towards the end of the game, and they scored with 1:55. And here they ran all over us in that last drive. And, we just couldn't get off the field. Third and this, third and that, third and this. Great plays, great players. It's just so frustrating. We had him so many times, tackle for a sack and he gets away. And, it was tough. And Josh Allen, we were not so critical of him, but I have been throughout the season. But, he played a hell of a game. He's a hell of a player.
Oh, he's great.
Super tough. I will say this, though, for all those Bills fans out there that were kind of commenting last week on our podcast, he still finds a way to give you a chance.
Yeah.
I'm going to say that. He threw that pick right after we went up 21-17.
No. So it was 24-21.
Yeah, 24-21.
He threw the pick.
But, at his own 20-yard line. Great play, and there was probably 2 or 3 other balls that I saw him throw, and I just went, why'd you throw that ball there?
That's weird.
There's no pressure. You had time. Just some comments I have about Josh Allen. Good quarterback, top 10, probably top 5. On his best day, maybe.
Yeah.
But he's too error prone. He makes too many mistakes. He's too much of a gunslinger for me, and I'm glad he's not our quarterback.
It happened.
Comment finished.
It happened the way we talked about it. I mean, and the person that was commenting, Blue Laces something, I can't remember.
312.
Big Bills fan. They were saying, oh yeah, go follow him. He was saying like, you can't really force Josh Allen to do bad things. He doesn't. He'll do it himself, and he's right. We didn't really force him to do anything bad. He had some amazing plays against us, especially with his feet, and he had some great plays through the air. But when it came down to it, he turned over that ball. And that was it. We went up, and of course they went back down and scored. So great for him again. Like we're saying, he makes that turnover, which is just terrible, and then he goes down and scores, and it's like, oh, he's just amazing.
What's he run for, like 80 yards?
Oh, I mean, gosh, I don't.
Yeah, he ran for like 80 yards.
Yeah, he ran for 81.
And everybody else in their team had an under 3.3 yards per carry. So again, I don't know why or how. I mean, they did run a few times on us in those 2 or 3 in that one drive. They had a 10-yard or an 8-yard or another 10-yard or a few of them. But I mean, the rest of the game, they finished under 3.3 yards a carry. All the other running backs except for him.
But in the end, to end off the game, on that 3rd and 6, he had a chance to throw a touchdown. And I don't know if it was a wrong route or a bad throw, but that was twice that he underthrew his receiver or threw it the wrong way, and it cost him 2 touchdowns against us.
Well, he hit Ricks in the back when he was chasing down a wide receiver.
He hit Ricks in the butt, I think, in the 3rd or 4th quarter, and then in overtime he just threw it the wrong way. But I'm not too sure if it was a miscommunication. It could have been. But Josh Allen, man, he's really good, but he's got to find a way to be better. But I'm not a Bills fan, of course, but we don't hate the Bills because they're AFC.
Good luck to them.
Good luck to you
the rest of the season,
except against us in the Super Bowl.
But I've pulled for them through years.
For years.
Felt bad, when they got knocked out a couple of years ago from the Chiefs in that last second play.
13 seconds, but
yeah.
We're going to jump into the overall performance. Section by section. Offense, by the passing game, Hurts was 18 for 31 for 200 yards, 3 touchdowns, 1 interception. In the running game, it was a horrible interception, might I say, much like the Miami one. Running game, Swift had 14 for 80, Hurts 14 for 65 and 2 touchdowns, Gainwell 2 for 26, Boston Scott 2 for 14. That was 32 rushes for 100.
Gainwell
2 for 26.
Nice.
That's a total of 32 rushes for 185 yards, an average of 5.8 total. We ran all over these guys. We didn't run enough.
No.
Should have ran more. I was screaming, run the ball when he threw that interception. It was first and 10.
First of all, Lane Johnson didn't play, right?
Yeah.
So he's out. Right tackle's out. First thing I said to you was run the ball at him and behind him the first 2 or 3 plays. Just see what happens. What do? We come out.
We threw the ball 3 times, and all 3 of them were throwaway passes. Yes. Not incomplete or underthrown. No,
because
he had to roll out and throw it away.
Driscoll's getting beat because he hasn't been settled in yet. Yeah. And, I don't think he knew he was starting until late today.
Probably not. So I'll tell you what, though, he definitely did settle in at one point.
Oh, no, I'm not going to. I'm going to rewatch the game.
Before the game, we'll talk about injuries, but before the game, you saw me. People were.
He was a wreck.
People were talking like I'm at the bar, like pacing for the first hour. We were there for like an hour and a half before the game started.
Yeah.
And I'm just pacing, and people are, what's up? And I'm just like, dude,
don't talk to me.
Without Lane, like. This is, if we're missing Hurts, that's the biggest thing. If we were to miss Hurts, it's kind of a game over. We're not going to really, But without Johnson, I mean, he is the best player on the team. I mean, you could make the argument for Kelsey or Hurts, but really, I think Lane is the best player on the team.
Top 5.
I mean, I think he's the best right tackle in football. He might be the best tackle in football. I know Trent Williams is, hailed, but he's the best player on the team, and losing him. It's such a major downgrade. You know what I mean? Like, there's not a lot of major downgrades. Like, Cam Jurgens is better than Sua Opeta, but it's not like it's 99 overall to 62 overall. No, that's Johnson. It was scary.
The next guy up.
It was scary.
Plus, he didn't even have time. Like, Driscoll did not know he was going to be starting.
Oh, until
if we knew on Tuesday or Wednesday that Lane was hurt or something, but it just came out of the blue.
He gets to practice with the first team, and he didn't. He didn't at all this week.
Cam Jurgens, you brought his name up. Man, he was amazing today. He was one of my guys. He was one of my under the nest plays. He was amazing. He just fights every block. Yeah, he was amazing.
Defense, all in all, they didn't do really what we thought they would do like they did last few weeks or during the season. They didn't really shut them out in the second half. Buffalo scored 7 in the third quarter, 7 in the fourth, and 3 in overtime. So defense wasn't as good as they'd been doing in the second half, but they did have a sack. They did have an interception. Both of those were in the fourth quarter. So
beautiful.
You tell me, pretty big deal. Like I said, Graham had the sack. He also broke the record for today for the most games played
that's awesome that he got a
franchise
sack.
history.
That's
so
right.
it's great that he got a sack. He's played 189 games for us, so it's the most in franchise history. It's just awesome. Like I said, James Bradbury, he had the big interception in the fourth quarter. 3 plays later was the OZ Olamide Zaccheaus touchdown on 3rd and 15, which was an unbelievable play.
Well, I'm glad to see, first of all, other than other than Devontae and Brown, use that other wide receiver. But man, it was a pretty gutsy play. And of course, when Hurts was rolling out a lot today, and when he rolls to the right, just shut it down. Just run.
It feels like the game's over.
Throw the ball.
It feels like the play's over.
But when he runs left, I mean, he can find guys open. He found somebody open today, and that was a unbelievable, unexpected touchdown. Yeah. But like I was telling you,
coverage.
I jumped up, signaling touchdown before I even saw the ball. Oh, yeah. I just had a feeling that there was something there.
Same with the Devontae Smith one later. You were like, "Oh, that's a touchdown." It was awesome.
You could just tell when Hurts was directing traffic a little bit, and just the throw he made. He set his feet, made a great throw. But it's funny, early on in that game, we weren't so kind.
No, we'll talk about that. But
yes.
As far as special teams goes, Covey had a 1 return for 18 yards. Braden Mann had another great game, looking like our punter of the future. We were worried, but 5 punts for 269 yards. That's a 53.8 average. He had a 59 for a long. He pinned him back. He gave our defense the best chances they could have. They didn't play amazing, but great job. Elliott, 1 field goal for 59 yards. This guy doesn't cease to amaze.
I still can't believe what led up to the field goal. I mean, with the 2 false starts we had with Kelsey moving, and we were moving backwards, and you could see 15 yards in front of us was the goal that we want to kick from here, and we keep moving back. And then we did those 2 quarterback draws, which got us a yard each time. There's no way we're going to hit that field goal, and he crushes it. It's just amazing.
Unbelievable.
This guy, I'm telling you, he's amazing. And it makes our special teams go from a dud to a stud. I mean, really, if you think about it. And Covey, again, he was amazing. And, man, I mean, his punting was so critical when you think about it. We go to the halftime. We come out at halftime. It's our ball. We're like, okay, they just scored right before the half, go up 10. We get the ball. We're thinking, okay, we're going to move the ball here. 3 and out. And then the punter comes in, and I said, he's got to crush this punt. We can't let them get the ball at the 50-yard line. Yeah. And it was raining like crazy, and it was nasty weather. And he banged one, and I can't remember where we put him, maybe at the 30. Yeah. But, it's still way
on the other side. He flipped the field.
It's flipped the field. Perfect.
It's impressive. It's incredible when you see a rainy game like today was. It was pouring the entire game. It was not sprinkling. It was pouring the entire game.
Steady rain.
And the special teams just played amazing. And just Elliott, that 59-yard field goal, I mean, he's just becomes this.
Are you kidding me? Is all I can say.
He's just become this unbelievably clutch player. And it's funny how you sit there and, we all have different ways. I know you like to walk away from the field goal, but he's taking that field goal, and I'm just kind of like, it's weird that I'm not more stressed about this. You know what I mean? Yeah. You think I would be like, oh my God, 59-yard, oh my God, here we go. Yeah. But with Jake Elliott, you're just kind of like, okay, he could miss it, but
he's going to make
it. He's not going to miss it.
With 22 seconds left.
It's incredible.
Just take the game into overtime.
It's amazing.
What a crushing kick against the Bills must have sank, and the Bill fans must have just fallen out of their couch because there's no way we're going to come back in this game. They were pounding us the whole game. Yeah. And you know what? It's just they just will themselves to score when they need to. It's incredible. You got to admit, this is a team unlike any I've ever seen. We said it last week, and I'm saying it right now. It's just, it's unbelievable that they were able to not just go into overtime, but then they go down and kick a field goal in overtime, and all they got to do is stop us one time.
And they don't.
And it was so almost like that pass when he threw it to Devontae on the right side, and he kind of cut between the 2 players.
It's amazing.
You saw that, and you're like, now we're playing pitch and catch. Yeah, it's so easy all of a sudden.
Out of nowhere.
Yeah. Amazing.
And that's the thing that has to do with the play calling we talked about. First half play calling, you're like, oh, this is terrible. And then fourth quarter overtime, you're like, My God, this is the best.
Yeah.
This is easy. It's
Then
so
he hands
confusing.
it off to Swift. He takes it left.
It's so confusing.
And, it's a little bunched up, and he spits outside for 12 or 16. I forget it was 16.
Yeah.
Down to the 12-yard line. I mean, if none of us thought we were going to score a touchdown, I mean, I knew we were.
Oh, yeah.
I was amazed that we were even in that position.
Absolutely.
And then, of course, the next play, right at the gut.
Right up the gut.
So,
What do you want to see more of, Dad, going forward?
Well, I want to
what do
see.
you want to see better? Or more?
Well,
whatever
I
you
mean,
want.
there's got to be more consistent offense in the first quarter, first half. Last year, and I don't want to compare the teams. It's a different thing. Last year, remember, we'd be up 14-21. We'd score how many touchdowns on our first drive of the game?
We have the record for most touchdowns in the second, or most points in the second quarter.
Yes, we did. Yeah, it was crazy. I would just want to see more consistency in the offense, and I really want to see him come out running the ball. I don't care who my line is. You got to run the ball. If not on first down, on second down, you got to start the running. You got to do it. We are a running team.
Don't start the game with 3 passes.
3 outs. Now, they started 3 and out, which was great.
Yeah.
But that's how you control and take over a game. I know it's the first quarter. I know there's 12 minutes left in the first quarter.
Yeah.
But still, start stuffing the ball down their face and start running the ball. We have the running backs. You saw Scott grab one for 10, I think.
Yeah.
Gainwell had 2. He almost broke one for the touchdown, which was incredible.
Yeah.
Well,
like I said, Gainwell averaged 13 yards a carry.
Right.
One of them was for 14.
It's amazing that they didn't lose faith in him, even though he's had some pretty bad games this year. And he gets that one, and you're like, oh, my God, he's going to take it in the end zone. He got tackled at the 2, I think, or the 1.
Gainwell, 13-yard average. Boston Scott, 7-yard average.
Right.
And I know with only 2 rushes, like, it would go down the more you run it. But still.
Maybe. You don't know.
Exactly. I mean, and we still haven't even played Rashad Penny, but I don't want to get into that. But I have nothing different from you for what I want to see more of. Better play calling in the first half. It's just abysmal. Better offense, consistency.
I mean, this was even worse than last week. I mean,
oh, absolutely.
Oh, my gosh. You're just going, what is happening? And, and I know, towards the end, we watched a lot of shows during the week, and they're talking about the offense. We're not going to pull any punches. That was pathetic. The first quarter, the first half.
Yeah.
The play calling was awful, abysmal.
The fact that we got a blocked field goal and then we fumbled the ball 2 plays later, or maybe the next play, I don't even know.
Yeah.
The next play. It's just funny because in that moment I even told you, like, we blocked that field goal. Oh, let's go. Yeah. We can go get a field goal or a touchdown. And then it's only 14-10 or not 14. No, I'm sorry. 10 to 14 or 10 to 10. Oh, we got a chance. And then the fumble. And it's funny because I remember looking at you and I'm like,
they're going to go down.
I would have preferred we just not block it because they're going to score now.
Right.
Like,
would have been 13-7,
They're
right?
not going to kick a field goal. They're going to score now. That's how it works. It's how it works, and they did, and it was just brutal.
And that was another 3rd and 6. They had, 13 to 22 for third downs today, which is really, really high for most teams.
Yeah.
I believe we were I had it written down, but I forget. But we were not 3 of 11, maybe
4 of 11.
4 of 11 on third down, which is not very good. Normally I think we lead the league.
We led the league before this game, and Buffalo was second in the league before this game. So I wonder if they jump up. I wonder if they do because they went over 50% today.
The one thing they don't lead is the score at the end of the game, though. So that's what counts, really. But I mean, we don't need to put ourselves in the position that they're putting themselves into because, like you were saying on the way home, this is not sustainable, folks. You cannot continue to get behind 10 points at half and think, oh, wow, we're going to win the game because we're going to do this and that and this, that. We got to do a little bit better in the first half and first quarter. I mean, it's just – and I'm waiting for that perfect game, that game this year where we go up 15 or 21 and it just, have a little secure win. But
yeah,
I'll tell you what, the one thing we are seeing is all our young guys are getting to play again. I've been saying it all season. You got Driscoll playing right tackle now. You got those DBs guys in the back there playing Ricks, and I just played well. Bradbury got his interception, which was nice. Yeah. Blankenship is still knocking guys off his feet like crazy. Yeah. He must have 3 or 4.
That actually leads us into our next topic of how did our selected players play. I had Bradbury and Slay that I chose. They were not great. But the biggest thing was they weren't getting beat over the top. There was no big
in front of you.
They kept everything in front of them, which was a big deal, and it ended up helping. Like I said, unfortunately, one of their receivers did go over 100 yards. I think Dig had 74, 75. Yeah. So they did have, Allen threw for 390. I don't know how much of that's on the safeties. I haven't rewatched the game yet.
90?
Yeah, I think it was 390 total that he passed for. Right?
Oh, my goodness.
I have it right. Come on.
That's good.
No, I'm sorry, 339. I knew there was a 9.
That's good. That's better.
I knew there was a 9. I mean, he was 29 of 51, which is not great.
So 51 passes. What'd you say, 320?
339.
Okay, so, I mean, that's 7 yards a pass, maybe.
Okay. Yeah.
So, I mean, you tell that's short passing. But the big thing that what didn't kill us, what killed us in this game was his ability to scramble out of sacks and our inability to contain. There were so many times that they had him 4 yards short of the third down line, and he squeezed by. I can't tell you, he took Hassan on one good move that really upset me, but he's a great player, so I can't get on him. But, there was one where that guy, he just juked him and took, and, you're like, there's another first down. I mean, I don't know how many first downs he ran for, but I bet you it's 7 or 8.
Oh, absolutely, at least. But like I said, Bradbury, Slay weren't great, but they weren't getting beat over the top. They were good in key moments. Bradbury had that interception in the fourth quarter. Slay had a stop on a second down, I think. There was a little bit of tugging on a jersey. A little bit. I see it on every single damn play.
That's right.
So I don't care.
Wow.
Biggest thing with this game, like you mentioned, is tackle.
Yes.
They're going to have to do a lot of tackling drills this week.
Yes.
Because, good Lord, can you wrap up the quarterback or the running back or whatever? You got to tackle.
There was at least 2 good ones where they had him shirt. And he got away and threw a pass. And
who was your selected player?
My selected player was Nolan Smith. I know I saw him on one play. I don't know how many he was in on.
He played a lot. I saw.
I did not see. I saw him one time almost get to the quarterback early from the right side, and then another play I saw him kind of get tackled or grabbed, and he's not a very big dude, and they kind of took care of him that way. But of course. Again, I'm not going to complain about the calls because, they had more penalties than we did. But, it's still one of those things I wish we could fix and say, look, guys, we have a dominant defensive line. You know it. Watch for the hold, please. This is a subpar offensive line they've got, but they're stopping us. I mean, our defensive was just...
That was like the Chiefs game last week. I wish people...
so many holds that were not called. So many.
You would think that a defensive lineman should be able to go up to the ref and go, hey, I'm Jalen Carter. I'm the guy who everyone thinks is going to win. I know you watch the shows. Right. I'm the guy everyone thinks is going to win Defensive Player of the Year. Can you look at this? Because this guy's not good. And do you see that I'm not getting any tackles or sacks against a really bad player? Yes. Let's go ahead and look for that.
Yes. And you see my head get spun up, like pushed all the way up to the top.
Yeah.
There's something happening that shouldn't be happening on that play. Could you make the call? There was barely any holding calls today. Yeah. Again, I don't want to do it because, you might say they gave us a pass interference one. But, of course, that late
roughing the passer makes up for that.
When the guy throws the ball and you hit him, I don't know.
He floppy.
0.2 of a second after he threw it.
He gave a little bit of a flop. He did a good one.
Yeah, but he wasn't helmet to helmet. It wasn't shoulder. It was a great play. And, and it gave him 15 yards and could have made us lose the game.
That's 3 games in a row we have had a roughing the passer call late in the game. That was kind of BS. The first one being the Dak in Cowboys.
Yes.
I know that one is the most legitimate.
Right.
Hassan Reddick did kind of hit him late.
Yeah.
It was BS. The second one was Mahomes last week.
That was
horrible. Yeah. That was a terrible call.
Barely hit him.
Well, no, he was up in the air and Cox hit him. He's jumping up in the air while throwing it. Right. And then this one, it's getting tiresome. I wish we could. Can we stop that?
This one was face to face. It wasn't from behind. It wasn't a cheap shot. And he just threw that wide receiver screen out after a second and a half.
Yeah.
And he gets in there, and I think it was on Morrow, but I'm not sure.
Morrow, yeah.
And he, hit him good, but he didn't destroy him. He didn't land on him. It was a terrible call, but you give him 15 yards on top of what they gained.
Yeah.
And they're down to the 20, 25-yard line. Luckily we held them to a field goal. But, again, we just need that. You just need to watch out for that. When there's a team that they have great hitters, and if you're calling strikes that are bouncing in the dirt, you're going to get in trouble because that's not how the game is played. But you got good defensive line, and they're getting held and pulled, and you can see it. Not all of them. I say you can't call them everyone, but the blatant one where the guy's just about to get to the quarterback, call the dang call.
I would say also the Eagles at least, need to learn to remember who you're playing in these last few minutes. You need to remember that Mahomes is always going to get the calls. he's always going to get that late call. So is Dak. He's on the Cowboys.
Yeah.
And so is this guy named Josh Allen. These guys are always going to get those calls. You have to be aware of that. You have to remember, when he lets the ball go, I need to let up, because even if I touch him while he still has the ball, they could call roughing the passer on me.
Right.
Because it's Patrick Mahomes, or it's Dak Prescott, or Josh Allen, or next week Brock Purdy. Like, you have to know who you're playing.
Yeah.
But Jalen Carter overall, you say played really well, but
incredible.
Yeah, he was awesome. He was all over the place.
He's just him and Davis. Davis was amazing too. He made some great plays. He almost got to Josh a few times.
Total of 9 tackles between those two.
Yeah, and that's I said to him. I don't even look at that, because what they do affecting the game is so much different.
Yeah.
But that one play by Davis where he got on the running back like immediately, and just jumped on him. And then there was another play where I can't remember. I think it was maybe Morrow or one of the linebackers came in and just, as the ball was being held,
it was Ellis, Christian Ellis.
That's
it was his first play or something. It might have been like second or third.
Yes.
It was funny because they just talked about him. They were because I saw he was in, and then they're like, "Oh, Zach Cunningham's out." And we're like, "Oh, shoot!" And then first play after they mentioned him, he just busted through the line. Yeah, that was.
And then, of course, there was the one play where the Bills were at their 5-yard line, 4-yard line.
Oh yeah,
and it was a sea of green. And I went, "Well, what was that?" I want to do that play.
Like 5 guys on the running back before he even really got a yard off the ball,
but was destroyed. Yeah. But then they drove 95 yards and got, of course, a touchdown, I believe. So.
Probably a penalty or something. No. Who was your MVP of the game?
Well, I said Jalen Carter, because the defense, even though they didn't win the game for us, they did stop him at the end, and he went down chasing, what's his face? Allen.
No, that was Davis.
Oh, that was when he fell down. But Carter, he was just amazing. He played great. He just destroys that interior line. And there was a few plays that he just, I don't want to say slaps a guy, but he just slips his hands away from him and just gets right through. And he's made Davis a much better player, and I think Davis has made him a better player. But I think he's the MVP of our team. Now we had several, of course. You can go offensively. I'm going to go defensively, because I still think holding him to a field goal in overtime was the thing. Yeah, that was it.
So I did what I try not to do. I don't like to make the quarterback the MVP, but I had to do it. Jalen Hurts is my MVP. Ended up 18 of 31 for only 200 yards. Is pretty, doesn't look really good. He did have 65 yards rushing, which is huge. 14 for 65. 4.6 average is 16 for a long. He also had a fumble. So total, he had 5 total touchdowns, 2 turnovers. But let me just say this: those 2 turnovers were in the first half, and I believe 4 of his touchdowns were in the second half and overtime.
Right.
So that's where I have to say it's just unbelievable. His second half abilities, just what he can do. I mean, we talked about it. We don't understand how this is possible. I've never seen a team do this. They're losing into the half 17-7 back-to-back weeks, 17-14 against Dallas, and I 17-10 maybe against Washington. I don't know.
Right.
I don't remember. But, dude, we're going to these, and then they come out, and even they looked bad still in the third quarter, but he just does what he has to do to win the game. And that last play of the game was just amazing, and it's just hilarious. He gets that ball to Devontae out into the right, and it's a perfect pass right there, first down on 3rd and 4. Right. Huge play. Then DeAndre Swift takes it 16 yards down to the 12. And at that point, it's funny because, as an Eagles fan, you're like, oh, we're going to win. Boy, we're not kicking a field goal. We're going to win.
And there's 2 minutes and 20 seconds left, but all we have all that time to score a touchdown.
We're going to score a touchdown.
From the 12-yard line.
We're going to kick a field goal. What's Jake Elliott warming up for?
And Devontae said, I'm just going to take it in. And it was amazing. Rewatch the play. I'm sorry, what did I say?
You said Devontae. It's okay.
Old man. But if you watch that, the offensive line just
my gosh,
Malata and Kelsey,
Landon, even Driscoll on the other side,
destroyed.
They did exactly what they needed to do in that play, which does bring us into our under the nest. But I wanted to say, Hurts with his 4 touchdowns, no turnovers in the second half and overtime.
Yeah,
he just has this ability, and we'll talk about it in a second. But under the nest, what do you have? Or I'll go what I have for offense, because it is that last play. It's not the Hurts touchdown part. It's not him running it. It's 2 offensive linemen. Number 1, Jordan Mailata, left tackle, squeezed into his defender right inside and blocked another guy with that guy. He used him to block another guy. He's unbelievable. This guy's 6'8", 350 pounds, 345 pounds maybe.
It was a double stack pancake, man. It was amazing. Stacked.
Then Kelsey, he pulled to the left as a center after he snapped it, and he absolutely flattened a blitzing defensive back. Yes. and it just cleared the way for Hurts. And like I said, you saw both the linemen do that. You saw Mailata squeeze and Kelsey hit, and it was like, oh, touchdown. Yeah. Like Hurts hadn't even crossed the line of score. And you knew he was going to score.
He wasn't past the 10-yard line.
No, and you knew he was going to score because, first of all, in open space with one guy to beat, you're not tackling Jalen Hurts. No. But it just Jordan Mailata and Kelsey to have that was just incredible. Do you have an offensive under the nest?
I did. I had mentioned it earlier, but Cam Jurgens, he just came back last week he was off for 5 weeks with injury, and I just kept an eye on him early on in the game. It's hard when you get excited and wrapped up in the game, but I was just watching him block. And, he's down the field. He's blocking two different guys. He's running this way. He's running that way. And when we say under the nest, it's one of those things where you're not going to hear about his name called out. You're not going to get he's not going to get a star for the game. But he was incredible. We're glad he's back, and hopefully we keep running the ball to his side because he's just incredible.
Yeah, my last under the nest for the defense is going to be in overtime with I can get the time that it happened in overtime with 5 minutes and 6 minutes left. 6 minutes 27 seconds left. There we go. Josh Allen, pocket kind of collapsed. He saw a opening to the left side. He took off running, and Jordan Davis, 330 pounds, 6'5", 6'6". I don't really know how tall he is. He's huge. He's a monster. He kept pace with him. He ran him out of bounds for a gain of 4, pushed him out. He got hurt on the play, but on the next play, 3rd and 6, Allen threw that terrible pass that we said. He threw the pass inside. Davis was going outside. Yes. It would have been a touchdown if they did it, but they didn't convert on 3rd down. They had to kick a field goal, and the rest is history.
Right.
So Jordan Davis.
Jordan pushed him, and you could see that, Allen went down not so comfortably. And you never know. That's why you got to get to these guys, and you got to hit them a little bit because that's when they start to not make a great throw the next play, and that's what he did. And it was an awful pass, and we were very excited when he threw it, and the guy had kind of beat.
Well, Davis turned around. Gabe Davis turned around and was like, "What the heck?" Right. Yes. He's like, "What the heck?" Not even close. Lucky, not lucky. It was just a great play. That's how it happens. What do you have a defensive under the nest?
I did not. No, I didn't have a chance to grab one.
Not a problem. Before we jump off the game, well, I guess we'll still stay on the game with some other stuff. Before we jump to the next thing, just some overall thoughts, Dad. I know you kind of wanted to say something about a announcer of the game or one of the
we were able to hear the announcing in this game, and as much as I thought Romo was really good, Tony Romo was really good the last couple of years as calling plays before they happen. I just thought in this game it was just terrible. And I don't want almost biased where you continually hear him. And he's getting to the point where he's regurgitating things kind of like Chris Collinsworth does.
Yes.
They just start talking about stats and things that are, he's done this for 10 years, he's done it. And it was just gobbledygook commentary that we didn't need during that part of the game. And I'm sure the Bills fans were saying the same thing we were saying very loudly, shut up.
Oh, we were screaming.
You start talking about, the
whole bar.
Yeah, it was pretty funny. It's just, I don't know. I think it's time to turn the sound off, watch the game, and put on some Christmas carols.
It's funny.
I suggest John Tesh's Christmas if you really like musical Christmas albums.
It's funny because everyone that's watching that goes to the bar, you heard me scream. At one point, I can't remember what he said, but we all shouted, and then it was kind of quiet, and I was just like, all right, that's it. The rest of the season, we're watching in silence. Right. I can't hear this anymore. It's the same way when we play on Sunday nights and Chris Collinsworth is calling it.
It's awful.
Anytime we play on Monday nights and we have to hear Joe Buck and that idiot Troy Aikman, and then on Thursday nights you got to hear Florio, who's okay, but you got to hear not Florio. I'm sorry, Al Michaels, who is he. I used to love him. He used to be great, but now he has just become just terrible. But it's funny, man. Yeah, Tony Romo. I agree with you. Early on in his career, I'm an Eagles fan, so obviously when I first heard his voice on on the announcing, I was like, oh god, another Cowboy to love
with them. Yes,
another Cowboys guy who's going to love the Cowboys players, and it's like Collinsworth with Brock Purdy will make a great play. Oh, you're thinking of Tom Brady? Oh my god, I can't stand it. But that's what Romo's become. At one point, A.J. Brown had a clear and obvious drop the ball, and he's like, oh, is that a fumble? That might be a fumble. That's a fumble. And I just can't stand this guy.
He had it for about a second.
It blows my mind. If that's a fumble, this game's over. If that's a fumble, dude.
But it was even before that. It was just, it's just certain things they're saying, and you're just like, first, then when they start getting into the Captain Obvious type stuff, and you're like, all right, like you yelled at one point, all right, I heard that or read that 12 times already this week.
Oh, yeah.
I need you to say it again.
As if it wasn't on Facebook 20 times this week.
Yes.
They're like, oh, well, he is the first player to do that. We know. I tweeted it. It's a bummer listening to these guys sometimes. But
I don't know.
I want Greg Olson back. I like him the most.
I don't know how the people do it. I mean, give me a commentary. No, I want John Madden back, but that's never going to happen, unfortunately. Rest in peace, John. Yeah. Great weekend, too, for the Thanksgiving. They did a lot of stuff for him. They had
cool. It was awesome.
Everything. But, it's just some of the commentary. It's so obvious. It's so – give me something I don't know.
I don't know, Jim. I think the Bills might get away with this one. Like, just can't stand
the other thing that drives me nuts, and, of course, I don't want to go on too long, is when you see a guy grab his shirt and it's obvious pass interference. Please don't say, oh, he looks like he got away with one of the – it doesn't make me feel any better. And I'm sure the guys on the other team that you're calling it into don't have any joy hearing that too. Just keep your mouth shut. If the refs call it, they should call it. If not, we should be able to throw a flag and replay it. But it's not happening. It doesn't the way it works. It's unfortunate, and that's probably the bane in football right now. Is some of these calls that you can't get, even though. You got a roughing the passer, but in the same shot that you're looking at, somebody's ripping somebody's face mask off. Yeah. You can't use that pump penalty, but he did hit him late, so that's a roughing. Yeah. And you're like, well, wait a minute, I can see both plays. Let's just, like Jerry Jones said, let's let every play be a replay.
Yeah. So there's only one thing I agree with Jerry Jones, and it's every play should be reviewable. Yes. That's okay. I agree. Next thing I had to ask you, Dad, before we also jump over is during the game, I think after halftime or during halftime, we saw, that horrible, probably the second or third worst play I've ever seen a quarterback make when Hurts just kind of handed the ball to Gainwell and just kind of threw it.
Let me set the scene here. It's they had just scored. We got like a minute for.
No, they had just missed the field goal. We had blocked it.
Okay, we got the ball back, and we're driving, and there's only a minute and a half left in the,
something like that.
And so it's obviously we're going to be throwing the ball, and then Hurts had the ball, and you see a guy running in towards, I think it was Gainwell, and he gives the ball to him. And
it's just like he went to give it to him, and then he pulled it back.
But then he flipped
it, and then he went and gave it to him again. And it's like,
as he's getting hit.
Gainwell was already preparing to block. It was horrible. One of the worst plays I've ever seen a quarterback make.
So what you're talking about is, then I leaned over to you and I said, that play right there takes Jalen Hurts out of the MVP conversation. You can't make a play like that everyone is seeing. And, it seems like every week the Eagles games now are getting to be the most watched game of the entire year for the last 30 years on Monday Night Football, and the last on Sunday afternoon. And you see that play, and it's like, I can't give you the MVP now because of that. Then, of course, he turns around and pushes me off the diving board into the deep end, and he says, all right, I'm going to bring him back from this incredible game that they're losing, and I'm going to win the game. And now what are you going to say, Mr. Baz? What are you going to say?
True. It's just funny because
he's back in the top 10. He's back in the top 2.
No. He's the MVP now. Like, it's just funny. It's funny what this team can do to you. Every week we've gone through the last 3 or 4 weeks. We're down in the half, yada, yada. We're playing terrible. Interceptions, bad this, fumble this. Offensive line can't block anybody. And then the second half, we look at the greatest team ever. And that's what Hurts does for some reason. In the first half, he just did not look very good. He had a few good plays here and there.
But some good passes.
But in the second half, he's the MVP. And it's just funny how we said it at halftime. We're like, dude, we have to stop doing this whole. He's leading. After last week, head-to-head matchup between him and Mahomes, he won the game, and they said that they had Hurts as favorite to win the MVP. He was number one, and it's just funny. At halftime, we're like, take it out, stop doing this,
stop talking,
turn it off, and at the end of the game. He's absolutely
turn it back up again.
He's absolutely the MVP.
But it's just like Josh Allen the last couple of years. They've been talking about him, and then that last year he had such an awful season. 10 interceptions inside the 10-yard line and in the end zone, and I'm like, stop talking about him as being an MVP. And again, we never win MVP. Our Eagles guys never get MVP. But and it's hurt. Wentz, we know he should have won it back in 2017. Yeah. And they ended up giving it to somebody else because he blew his knee out. But he was still MVP at the time.
Of course he was.
But anyway, it was just something that was kind of ticking me off. So I leaned over to him. So we wanted to just kind of throw that out to you and ask you, what do you think? Do you think he's still the MVP front runner? Because if you don't, I don't know what you watched tonight. But for him to bring a team back in those conditions. I know it was home, but in the conditions and the way they looked, most valuable player on his team, hands down.
4 weeks in a row.
Hands down.
4 weeks in a row trailing. He comes back every single time to win them. And then in the Cowboys game, he got his knee destroyed. And he's still, 3 weeks in a row after his knee injury, he brings us back with his legs and his arm. I just don't know. I don't know what to say. I don't know. It's incredible.
24 yards passing in the first half, 200 total in the second half.
Well, no, 180. I'm sorry, 200 minus
24. Yeah, 176. Yeah,
second half. But I mean, which isn't great. But how many of those rushing yards are in the second half? I'll have to find out. But he does it. He just wins. He wins the game. He wins you games. It's unbelievable. But
that's what MVP is all about.
Yeah. We'll go ahead and jump over now to 3 studs and a dud. Just a quick little talk about some fantasy stuff. Just for the fantasy fans out there, this is where we just talk about 3 studs of the game, maybe 1 dud, people that you should have started, maybe that played well and everything like that. Number 1 stud is go ahead, Dad.
We're over here.
Oh, I'm sorry. Number 1 stud is Josh Allen.
Yep.
43.66 points. Wow. Played phenomenal. Only had the 1 interception, no other turnover. Had rushing yards, had touchdowns. 2 rushing touchdowns, 2 passing touchdowns. Yeah, 2 rushing touchdowns, 2 passing touchdowns. Great game for him. Yeah. Great fantasy game for him. Number 2, it's crazy to say this, Jalen Hurts had 40.5 points, which is unbelievable considering the fact in the first half he had 24 passing yards, 1 rushing touchdown, 1 interception, and 1 fumble. Yeah. And it just blows your mind that it makes you not understand fantasy sometimes. Yeah. But number 3 stud, Devontae Smith, had 23.6. He just edged out Gabe Davis as the stud. I think Davis had like 22, but Devontae got 23.6, 106 yards, 7 catches, and a touchdown. Yeah. And then the dud, been a dud the last 2 weeks, A.J. Brown, 14.7 points. Still pretty good. Yeah. Kind of funny. There was really no dud in this game. But for a guy like him, you'd expect more, so he got only 14. I think Swift only had like 9, but you don't really expect much out of Swift.
80 yards carry rushing.
Yeah, right? 80 yards rushing. Not really any. Only 1 catch for 4 yards. Yeah. No touchdown. You don't really expect much for Swift from fantasy, but AJ you do because he's my receiver. But
player for most people. Yeah.
Some injuries on the game. We're going to try to fly through because we know we're keeping you along. Yeah. Injuries, of course, Lane Johnson didn't play. I was freaking out before the game. In the game, we lost Zach Cunningham, Fletcher Cox, and Jordan Davis. Cunningham and Cox, they were downgraded to out when they were questionable at one point. Davis, he got hurt on the last defensive drive, the second to last defensive play. Yeah. So he never really had a chance to come back. So we don't know if he would have or wouldn't have. So we'll keep an eye on that, see what's going on there.
He got up and stood up. I think he was knocked out.
I think he had just ran 40 yards on that play and tackled a guy out of bounds. Yeah. So he landed awkwardly. Yes. So I'm sure he just knocked the wind out of himself. But hopefully he's okay. As far as the Eagles rooting guide, we did talk about the Thanksgiving already. It was we had the Lions and the Cowboys in Washington and all that sort of stuff. Niners, but as far as today, just kind of 2 important games for us. The Giants defeated the Patriots. That's good. We like to see that. Let those Giants ruin their draft pick. Let them ruin their draft pick while staying out of the playoffs. That's good. The Falcons defeated the Saints. That was big. We need someone to win that division. That's not the Saints. Yes. So we get a better second overall pick. They defeated them 24-15. Giants defeated the Pats in the most boring game, 10-7. Yes. I don't even remember watching any of it because it was so boring.
No.
You got anything else to say?
Not really. Just a shout out to one of our other commenters we did not talk about, John Danovich. He gave us the studs and duds. We're using that as one of our segments now. So thanks, Johnny.
Yeah, Johnny. I think Johnny's he was the spark for all the other comments because we kept giving him shout outs and that made everyone else kind of maybe want to shout out. So if we keep shouting out people who give us comments, maybe everyone will want to comment. So all right, we'll go ahead and say our goodbyes here. You can follow us on Facebook, Instagram, or Twitter. If you like our Eagles Therapy podcast, do us a favor, rate and subscribe wherever you get your podcasts. If you're watching on YouTube, please like and subscribe. Comment below or email us any questions or comments at oureaglestherapy@gmail.com. We'll be happy to respond. He's an on-call worker, so he usually is near his phone a lot, so he's always responding.
I'm watching, baby.
When I'm at work, he'll text me and say, hey, this guy commented, or someone commented this, or last week the other day we had the Bills fan who commented. He's like, dude, you got to go read this Bills comment. Yeah, it's Mafia Mom, something like that.
And then Blue Scales.
And he said, Bill's comment, you got to go look at it. It's a great comment. And they was right. It was an epic take, a really good take on Josh Allen.
It's like a 3 paragraphs.
Yeah, it was great. So we appreciate other teams being involved too.
Yeah.
But other than that, from us here at our Eagles Therapy Podcast, my name is Basil.
And I'm Baz.
Go Birds.
And fly, Eagles, fly.